to 709 Meridian, an audio commentary podcast. My name's Andrew.
And this is D.
And we are in the late summer, the delayed summer of sequels. We just went through chapter, we're like Orion in 90. We're the Robocop 3 of timing here. But yes, we are back with Ghostbusters now. So the only Ghostbusters, right? Like in some continuities, I'm sure that.
Yeah, this is the only one I really give a shit about.
So yes, and I watched it. I prepped, so I'm ready, and now just so sad they ever made any more, given the way it turned out. Like,
honestly,
ooh.
I don't mind 2.
Yep.
And 2 caught a lot of hell for years and years till the 2016 one came out, and suddenly people love part 2.
Yeah, I think two was in 89, and
Yeah, 2 had a lot to live up to.
2 had a lot to live up to, and 2 didn't fail by any means, but 89 was
big.
Yeah, you had Batman, you had Lethal Weapon
Indiana
2, Indiana
Star Trek.
Jones, Star Trek, and Ghostbusters 2. So it was like your first summer of
Big sequels. It was like a blockbuster summer. Like,
yeah, there'd never been a
every week
summer
something was coming out
where that many sequels to that many hits were coming out. Like,
and they all made money.
Yeah.
Even if people didn't like Star Trek 5, people went to go see Star Trek 5.
And Star Trek was always on the budget, so they were able to make it happen. Also, as of this recording, Paramount still has time to kick William Shatner $3 million to fucking add the cavemen. Like, as I've said on this fucking podcast, we are getting to the point where William Shatner can type into a computer, stone men chase me around, 1989 cinematography, and it'll fucking create the footage and they can put it in, and we can just have the director's edition of 5. Like, we've waited so long and he has not died that
yeah, he's still around.
They could still do it. And I don't understand how they don't think they would make money on that, but that's a subject for another day. Here we have Ghostbusters. It was Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd coming off of. Had they written together before?
No, I don't think so. No, not before this.
But Ramis had written. God, I don't know. Had he written Caddyshack or?
Yeah, I think he co-wrote Caddyshack.
Meatballs. This reunites Bill Murray with Ivan Reitman from Meatballs.
That's another one I don't get at all where the love comes from for that shit.
I don't know. That could be a season if there's enough
it's not
mind-altering substances involved, because they get
bad movie, but
it's really Canadian.
I just watched it recently. It's fucking boring, if anything. Like,
it is boring, yes. And then the series just gets fucking incredibly weird and worse from there. Like, because of the brand. That's what Video Store got you in the very early 80s is like the Asylum version of movies in the 80s was sequels, unrelated, but also filmed in a similar location.
And with Meatballs, I think every subsequent sequel was meant to be another movie, but
turned into Meatballs. It was just another summer camp movie.
Right. For instance, the direct-to-video classic starring Corey Feldman, Meatballs 4.
What was the third one? Well, they turned into...
The third one was Patrick Dempsey.
Okay, so the second one was still like PG, right? Wasn't that the one with Mulligan? And then with the third and fourth one, they went TNA, because one of the weird things of the 80s that also has nothing to do with Ghostbusters is that while Blockbuster said they proposed they were like this family establishment,
who
wouldn't carry NC-17 or unrated movies or something like that. And so the way around that is you just made a bunch of R-rated TNA comedies and Blockbuster would carry them. And so that's like the USA Up All Night oeuvre was also your Blockbuster oeuvre for that kind of thing. Okay. But that has absolutely, the direct-to-video. Once direct-to-video, I mean, studios got into it like pretty quick, right? Like Columbia was making TNA stuff real quick. Yeah. But that's not what we're watching still. Though it is Columbia. That's why we're back. We're back with Columbia Pictures here. So Ghostbusters came out in 1984, giant hit.
Made a splash.
And then it legitimized Bill Murray a little bit more. He had not broken really out yet past this comedies, and even by this time he had tried. Razor's Edge was what, 1984 or 1983?
Well, Razor's Edge actually was why he did Ghostbusters.
Okay,
I think.
So it was a one for me, one for you. Yeah, so he wanted to be a serious actor already at this point, and that's sort of the story of
SNL behind.
Yeah, Bill Murray's career is the hunt for being taken seriously, which has, in some ways, it's never actually happened, but everybody sort of pretends that it has. But we don't have like nobody really acknowledges just the desperation of Bill Murray from, I don't know, God, 1989 to 1999 until Wes Anderson sort of came along and gave him his chapter 2. Well, anyway,
I'll say this. John Belushi dying is probably the best thing to happen for Bill Murray's career.
Yeah, that is true.
Because he actually was going to sort of slip into that space, because he was going to do drama too at a certain point.
Yeah, and he tried it early. He tried a range early, but he was sort of sticking with it. And he'd had I still haven't watched it. It's been, fucking 37 years or something since I've seen that one, the Belushi Blair Brown one.
Oh, Continental
Divide. Yeah, he was trying too. Like Belushi was not Chris Farley. Belushi was. There was
that's the big misconception.
Yeah, if Belushi had survived, there would have been a Belushi movie with Scorsese or something like that's the trajectory he was on. It was very different, and so Bill Murray kind of wanted to get on that trajectory, and that really has never happened for him. He's never been embraced by that sort of cohort, the serious cohort of this era.
Sorry, kids, lost in translation.
I've only seen it once. I remember really liking it, but it's
not horrible. It's just when you look back on it, though, especially the fact that Scarlett Johansson was 17 or some shit. She said,
yeah.
Sofia
Coppola's a little problematic, not just because she's terrible.
Yeah, there's something creepy about that.
So, Anyway, we're gonna kick it off here now that we're sort of on track. All right, let's do it. We got
too much to say during the film anyway.
Oh, there is so much to say. All right, starting in 3, 2, 1, play. Yep.
Columbia. When did they start having like theme music? Was it like
did we have to wait until the refresh in 90 or whatever?
Probably, yeah. That's what I think, because
TriStar got to have music.
TriStar already had theirs, yeah.
So Ghostbusters, things to look out for, folks, is the absolutely beautiful editing, which I will talk about at points, but also
the cinematography.
Laszlo Kovacs. So I looked at it, this is easily Ivan Reitman's best movie. And And it's
Yeah.
like, there's, when you think about what he's doing here, he's kind of doing a riff on Poltergeist. So he's
Mm-hmm.
doing it, he's got to put it in the same visual tableau, as you would say, of Poltergeist, which was Toby. And that's also like the Spielberg widescreen. Like,
Yeah, it's
this
shot
is the
really wide.
continuation of that, like, the three movies Spielberg did Panavision back in the 70s: Sugarland, Jaws, and Close Encounters. And
You're
it sort of
using
set this
everything.
tone, yeah. Um, but we've got some in-camera effects, which are going to be gorgeous because we also get to see these actors respond to them. And also we, another tragedy of reality is in Rick Moranis's wife passing, we were robbed of sometime in the 90s when they realized he and Sigourney Weaver should do at least two more movies together.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
and
I could have seen a romantic comedy with them though.
right?
Or something. A lot
Because,
of those guys really could have volleyed into something else.
yeah.
Oh no.
Okay. So now we're from the makers of Stripes, right? Like,
Ghostbusters. Yeah.
whereas at the open, we were in Poltergeist. And that's another thing. This is Poltergeist in the big city, which we wouldn't see until Poltergeist 3, which sucked. So, okay. And now we get to the point of the movie that is basically about 30-ish-year-old Bill Murray being a sexual predator who's pursuing co-eds.
Yeah.
This
This doesn't really
lasts
age well.
7 minutes or something. Like, it's really intense and then it's gone. Like,
It's crazy because this is what made him so endearing for so long.
for so long.
To be
He's,
this creep.
yeah,
Although I'll tell you who wrote it into the ground and was great at it, being like the creep. Ken Osmond. Ken Eddie Haskell
oh,
Osmond of
yeah,
Leave It to Beaver.
yeah, yeah,
I've been watching old Leave It to Beavers and like new Leave It to Beaver episodes. That dude was like the MVP of both series.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was an
Killing
exceptional
it.
great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He's like the OG of all that shit.
Well, no, because the problem with, and I mean, John Larroquette on Night Court,
Yeah, Larroquette, yeah,
right? Because then he immediately
kind of a
transitioned out of that and showed off that he actually was this fucking great actor. But
great actor,
the
yeah.
problem with Murray is Murray wants you to, like, there's his
Like him.
ego involved.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's really weird and it dates incredibly badly.
Well, this is why him and Chevy don't get along. Because
It's the
Chevy
same
Chase,
thing. Like,
they're the same guy. It's all about ego with them. You have to tell them they're awesome, and even when the shit's not even funny.
right.
But
Who is this
Chevy
kid?
Chase,
This kid was in something else, right? Like, or is he
I think
just
so. Around the time he was probably playing the same type of character and everything,
okay?
the nerdy guy.
So yeah, and this is kind of what you would get. What's different about Ghostbusters is that you sort of did have by 84 the sitcom movie
Yeah.
comedies, right? Like, 80
All right.
Mr. Mom was 83, and
Yeah.
that was literally just three sitcom episodes strung together. I watched that a couple months
Yeah.
ago, and it's just three sitcom episodes. But
And hmm,
this is like a this is more like Sneakers in terms of it being like a team
yeah. Like everybody puts their part in.
It's got a heist pacing toward the end and stuff, but yeah. And here we get Aykroyd, and Aykroyd
Aykroyd,
really
he sells it
doesn't,
because he
yeah.
believes in it.
And
That's
he
why
does
he's
not get that much to do, which is really
no,
weird.
but
Like,
he works it to hell,
oh
man.
yeah. This
And
is
we got to mention the chick here. That's Jennifer Runyon, famous from Charles in Charge and Fake Cindy from The Very Brady Christmas.
really
Yeah,
okay.
she was big in the 80s somewhat. She popped up here and she was in Up the Creek.
Okay.
Also, I think in 84. But yeah, Aykroyd, of all of those OG SNL guys, I'd say he's the most underrated. And going back through the old episodes, it's because he was always playing a character, you know. I think this is one of the first times closest to his personality that he
Right.
played. There's Ramus.
Yep.
Rest in peace. Dr. Egon Spengler.
He's so good.
Yeah. He was good at Stripes too. It's just
I haven't. The last time I tried watching Stripes, I didn't make it. I think I've seen it once. I tried
well,
watching it. I think I
yeah.
watched the extended version, and
Oh
I'm like,
God.
Jesus,
Yeah.
it's just
That shit is yeah,
I
Edward.
can't. But I've got the regular one. But no, Stripes isn't good. Like,
The first half of Stripes is good.
okay,
And then once they graduate and go into the whole shit across seas and all, yeah,
I don't even remember that. Like,
yeah, the
yeah,
second half. Even when I was little and watched Stripes, I always thought when they did the graduation thing is the end of the movie. But there's a whole chunk of movie after that with the tank and shit,
okay.
and also featuring John Larroquette.
Is he the jackass? There
Yeah,
were
yeah,
so many little military movies in the early '80s. Like,
yeah.
there
It
was
was always some basic
Taps.
training shit.
Yeah, because they could
Cap,
get on the base
yeah.
probably and get it under and get it written off. Okay, so here we go.
There's the
Now
PKE.
we got this is really good because we're 6 minutes in or 8 minutes in, and Murray's getting sort of tiresome. Like, I get it if this is your bit, because really, when you think about it, like, they'll talk about God a little bit later in the
Mhm.
movie because only Winston can profess a belief in God, and I don't think they get the optics of that. Ernie Hudson does. That's the thing I love about Ernie Hudson is he's just like, I'm just gonna fucking do this right, even though it's
Yeah,
pretty clear these white guys aren't, really thinking
yeah. They
about
don't
this.
get it
They
right.
aren't paying any attention to me. Um, which is a problem because they wrote the movie. But so Ramus is your science atheist.
It's a hard
Um,
science.
yeah, your hard science
And
atheist. But Murray's just your libertarian atheist. He's just that fucking guy. Like,
yeah.
in reality, Murray's listening to Joe Rogan in, like, Murray and Dana Barrett broke up in the future because he fucking voted Trump eventually, like, and campaigned for him because he would have been a huge celebrity. God, that's a good movie. That's the fucking movie.
Well, Venkman would always be looking for his come up though too.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh yeah, Venkman would be fighting with Geraldo in the '90s.
But from this came, the massive marketing
Yes.
and it spawned the cartoon and then inspired Filmation to compete.
Yep. And completely confuse me as a child.
Yeah. That was so
Not the
wrong what they
worst,
did.
because I
Yeah.
read the trivia, and the trivia includes somebody calling up the producers and chewing them out for turning Winston into Amy the gorilla,
See,
according to
that's what always
IMDb trivia.
that's what got me. Every time we talked about it, you were like, they were the sons of the original Ghostbusters. I'm like, no. But
Well, no,
actually that's what it is.
but
They are.
yes, they are. They
Yeah.
are the
The
sons of the
filmation Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters
Yeah.
from the
60s, 70s. Yeah.
70s. There
Yeah.
was a live action Ghostbusters
Hmm.
filmation show. And
Right.
the characters on the filmation Ghostbusters were the sons of those characters. And it was very confusing
It
to
was.
me, apparently, because I don't think I'd barely seen Ghostbusters. I wasn't really, but I mean, I knew the
No, that
real Ghostbusters.
right. They were
So
the real Ghostbusters.
I thought the filmation Ghostbusters series was like a future sequel series to this. And then the real Ghostbusters would have been then set around the time of the
Yeah,
movies.
this yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But what's
So
cool is they had the fathers on the other show though.
yeah, they did.
Actually.
Like, for some reason, they were like really like, no, we're taking it seriously. We've had these scripts in the drawer since '78.
So we had the first big effect of the movie too.
Yep.
There.
And now they all believe in ghosts. So ghosts are real. And now we get a different side of Murray that sort
Look
of,
at the shot. I love this shot.
yep. Look at fucking Ramus. Look at the cutting between. Oh God, it's just so good. When we get to
Yeah.
the comedy beats, there's they do this thing where they're gonna cut early on a bunch of comedy beats, and it
Hmm.
just leaves with this great sense. But yeah, we got Laszlo Kovacs shooting fucking New York in Panavision.
Yeah. And you
Like,
know it's New York. It's
yep.
not some fake shot in Canada fucking
Nope. We fucking opened with the New York Public Library, and we are very clearly on location. And now we are done with this part of the plot too.
yeah, now they're free to they're gonna be free to go do their own thing.
But there's not an implication as well that they're getting booted because Venkman perved on like co-eds. Like
Hmm.
it's
No, that wasn't a problem then.
well, no, I mean it's just like such a
That's like the subplot to half of the high school movies back then. One of the girls was banging the the teacher or some shit.
it's really weird that that wasn't presented as a problem, right? Like
I think the only movie that addressed it as a serious issue was remember the movie Teachers?
yeah,
Yeah, there's a plot in
what
that where like the
yeah,
coach is screwing one of the girls. She's pregnant or something,
yeah.
and Nick Nolte's like, "Why did you do that, boy? What were you thinking?"
We should do a Nick Nolte season, except they'd be too long. I'd love to do
Yeah, because I recently watched Extreme Prejudice,
hmm.
which has a cast that I cannot disagree with.
Okay. So I'm just like, oh, you could just see
Yeah,
Peter
look at that,
Parker walking behind him.
right?
Also, so Ghostbusters is infamous as an unpan and scannable movie because you'll notice that Reitman is going to split the screen pretty much every time he can. So you can't keep all the characters in frame. And so
No,
this
because
would have been
especially
going
this shot, you wouldn't even
back,
see Ramus.
no, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It would have been
Hmm.
like there. We would have had to go back and forth really obviously. So, like, by the '90s, what's his face? Cameron was really trying to pan and scan shit. Like, there was
Oof.
a special edition of True Lies. Like there was $100 Laserdisc set. That was the thing back in the day.
Damn.
Is your Laserdisc sets were $100 because you had the movie split over 3 to 4 discs or something. At least three. So it was super expensive. There was always this joke when people were bitching about Laserdisc versus DVD in the early days. Somebody was like, nobody's releasing a $250 box set of Supergirl on Laserdisc. Shut the fuck up. Enjoy your
Right.
DVDs. This never would have been possible in the Laserdisc days. But yeah, so pan and scanning. So yeah, we'd be losing her. This
Yeah.
comes
She wouldn't.
into
She wouldn't show till she gets into the shot.
Mhm.
Like
And we would have moved away from Ramus. And like
Ramus. Yeah.
so there is the one problem that we get the establishing shot of the gargoyle up there, or the grotesque, I think it's called, but we don't get that shot of from the roof where we see them up on the roof until like on the music video set until a little bit later.
Yeah.
Speaking of music videos, they get Sigourney Weaver to play a hairband video vixen just without the music in this. It's like she didn't want to come back as Ripley. I imagine she would have had more to say. I'm like, they do it tastefully, but she probably shouldn't have trusted these guys, given
Oh,
Caddyshack.
here we go. Here we go.
Ramus.
Rick Moranis.
I said Ramus. I apologize, Rick.
Oh shit.
Well,
Well, they both got glasses on.
right. It's
So
just a height thing, right?
right.
Like,
It's just difference in height.
oh yeah, Rick Moranis could do some killer, like romantic lead thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Especially in like I would say the early '90s when they had all those actresses and
yeah,
specifically had that genre.
yeah,
I could have seen him with I don't know Meg Ryan or something. One of those chicks.
yeah. And you just like you'll notice we're always going to shoot Moranis like a little bit to emphasize him being short, stuff like that. But like he's really fucking good.
Yeah. And
That outfit. Oh my god, look at that outfit.
he's coming fresh off of SCTV, which would him and well Harold Ramis had been left, but Moranis and John Candy and all those guys,
Yeah,
they were the early '80s were just coming off SCTV, which was SNL's biggest competition back then. Even though they were kind of from the same umbrella, Second City, but
yeah.
SCTV was Canadian though. It was strictly Canadian SNL.
Strictly Canadian. Yes, there was so much Canadianness in comedy in the early '80s. Sort of to the late '80s in some ways. Like,
Yeah. But look, Stay Puft, Marshmallows.
mhm.
That's a harbinger.
Oh, and the man is on there. Okay,
Yep, he's right there.
okay, but here we have an actual practical effect, in camera practical effects.
Which is cool because
Yep,
for years people were like, "How did they do that?"
fucking
It's just
made
a
some shit really hot and dropped some eggs
yeah.
on it. But so this
Here we go.
is Sigourney Weaver after Year of the Living Dangerously. So she had started to try her post genre thing. And then there's this, which is also in some ways about the only movie where she plays this is like the last movie where she plays the girlfriend, right? Like,
Pretty much because after this, yeah, she's kind of the boss bitch.
yeah. Oh, yeah, because Working Girl. Yeah.
Yeah, she becomes the boss.
Working Girl's so fucking good. Oh my God.
I haven't
Well, that's
seen
Mike
that in
Nichols
so
too.
long.
Okay, we watched Silkwood last night, and I
Oh
was
wow.
reading. Yeah, that has an amazing supporting, like just the list of guys in that movie. It's all the every fucking white guy from 1984 to 1996 is in that movie, like
Oh,
supporting guys in
shit.
that, plus Bill Cobbs.
Hmm. Oh
All
wow.
white guys plus Bill Cobbs
Bill
is in it,
Cobb.
and he has one line, and they're just like, no, I want Bill Cobbs in my movie, and it like makes no sense. But then I guess Mike Nichols hadn't made a movie in 10 years or something before that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, did he just like come up with a bunch of guys he wanted in his movie and he put them in? Anthony Harold's in it.
Oh
Will
wow.
Patton's in a scene. Yeah,
Well, Will Patton was that guy. He went to
yeah.
work for
Will
years.
Patton worked his ass off. Okay, so
Will
here we
Patton,
are doing the Annie Potts is coming on to Harold Ramis subplot.
yeah.
And we start
And
that off right away.
strangely enough, Ramis changed this up for the sequel for some weird reason.
Yeah, it goes to her and Rick Moranis, and Ramis
Yeah.
just doesn't have a.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
There's your romantic movie. Rick Moranis and Annie Potts, who is also super underrated.
Yeah. Yeah, especially as this goes along. Like,
Yeah. And I thought it was cool that they really, for the cartoon, they went out of their way to sort of. Janine was probably the only character that kind of matched the
right.
movie version between because
Yeah, because I mean, Ray was dumber but close. Like he was more oafish, but he was close. But wasn't Vankman just sort of a jackass on the show?
he was a jackass on the show, but there was kind of a difference though
Well,
between
yeah, there wasn't like the sexual predatorness of him. Yeah.
not really, but he did flirt. But the
Okay.
thing was, there was definitely a difference between the voice actors because the first half of the cartoon, what's his name, the Garfield guy did
Okay.
Bankman. And then they switched to fucking Dave Coulier, who did what he said was a Bill Murray impression, but it sounded more like a surfer guy, and
I remember
it
that.
didn't work. It
Yeah, I
sucked,
remember the surfer guy stuff. Yeah.
dude. Just look up any because they have most of them on YouTube. The 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 change is like jarring because Lorenzo Music actually did it better, even though they said Bill Murray complained. They said Bill Murray
Really?
complained and said Lorenzo Music, he sounds too much like Garfield, which duh. So
Was that before or
like
after Bill Murray played Garfield in his biggest sellout move? The thing
exactly,
that,
exactly. I think that's
like,
why he did Garfield.
okay, well, that and $80 million or something. Like,
Yeah.
they
It's like
finally put together the check to fucking pay Bill Murray to phone it in as Garfield.
because Lorenzo Music, I think he had passed away at that point. And but any episode with Dave Coulier as the voice of Venkman kind of sucks. Because he sounds like this. He talks like this.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
Sounds nothing like Bill Murray, even though he's supposedly doing a Bill Murray impression. So here we have Venkman kind of bullshitting his way.
Into her apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the movie avoids addressing a lot of things, but it also avoids addressing they've only seen that one ghost.
Mm-hmm.
They have no practical experience with investigating ghosts. That was a ghost that was hanging out. Like,
Oh yeah.
so, but the movie still like sort of plots it that well. Like, we do get the their rising expertise sort of eventually in montage, but like this is kind of a different movie than what we're going to get in just a little bit. A very different movie.
Mm-hmm. Now, before all the eggs were busted, weren't they? Or most of them were. There were so few eggs in the
Yeah,
carton.
yeah. There are no broken shells there.
No. Stay Puff is still.
Yeah.
How come that didn't melt? The bag of Stay Puff
It should be totally because it's not. It wasn't heated.
in that area.
Well, I mean, it was an intentional thing. The poltergeist was
Yeah,
fucking
it just
with
wanted
just the eggs.
the eggs. Yeah. Sigourney Weaver is
We,
so good at that,
yep. Do you want a Coke? By the way, would you like a Coke?
right?
I'd like a Coke.
Coke
I
or a
like
Diet Coke,
I like how there are Cokes for both of them in the fridge. They could just turn in and
right?
grab a Coke just for the taste of it.
Just get
Oh,
a
I'd
Coke.
like some Wishbone too, by the way, everyone. So that's one thing about product placement is that, oh, I'd like a
Perrier.
Perrier and a Smuckers, is that like in the movie theater, product placement is much more obvious, and it needs to be something like Superman 2, where they're
Mm,
like the stores, so you really see it, because you're missing
yeah,
out on like the contents of the refrigerator being very carefully turned
but
to
I think
promote the items.
at this point wasn't Columbia. They were in cahoots with Coca Cola.
Maybe. And Columbia was always like kind of the worst about it. They didn't give a shit.
Yeah, they
Like
didn't care.
Columbia never gave a shit. Columbia didn't give a shit before Sony bought them either. Like,
Mm. See, now this happens, and then the movie kind of forgets about her for
yep,
a while.
for she will get to watch about them on the news. And even though it sort of set her up as
Which makes me wonder, was she still their client, or were they just helping her anyways?
okay, here's the cut. We don't get to see
Yeah,
their interaction, right? There's
no.
going to be stuff like that.
Even though I think in the TV version they might have had it extended.
Yeah, they totally, that somebody went through this and cut it very nicely.
Yeah.
If you ever want to see what happens when you don't trim the fat, it's called the Superman TV cut. The officially
Now,
released, finally Superman TV cut is the like it's incredible just like how
yeah.
long scenes go on.
Oh yeah. Oh god. The shit
The
at the end with
comedy beats
Jimmy and the
too.
camera.
Oh man.
Me? They could have kept that out.
All
Now,
right.
cool thing about Ghostbusters though is that being in '84, aside from like a lot of technical stuff
Mm,
or just stuff of the era, the movie itself looks timeless. Like
yeah, because you'd
it
hit
could,
that point of like I don't know, film stock and fucking like just yeah, it's I think for well also Columbia has so Sony being the home video company has probably done a better job restoring and keeping Ghostbusters state of the art, like the print master,
Mhm.
than any other movie. Like, because
Mhm.
they don't really have anything else, frankly. Like, not like this. Like, they've got
No,
Lawrence of Arabia, but like the segment of the population that gives a shit about that is
yeah,
shrinking every day.
that's
Like,
cinephiles
yeah,
specifically and fans of Lawrence of Arabia.
yeah, it's a very specific set versus this, which you can still like. yeah, you got to talk about Bill Murray being a dipshit in a way, but also maybe not that much. Like, though,
Oh,
actually, no, you do need to talk about it because
I
that's how
love this dude.
yeah, this is so good. And here's where we start getting the comedy beats. Like, here's where we start getting from the makers of Stripes again, is
Hmm.
that we get, yep,
I'll take
I'll
the
take
next
the
one.
next one. Because let's remember, everybody, they look like exterminators
Yeah,
at best. At worst, they seem like the nuts from TV.
yeah, some weirdos with this shit on their back.
Yep. And here we're talking about how they're carrying unlicensed nuclear accelerators on their backs, which is so Ghostbusters is a science hero comedy, right? This
Yeah,
is
this is for the
um
dorks and the nerds,
right.
kind of.
Like it's pseudo hard sci-fi. It's not soft sci-fi. There's the implication there is hard sci-fi behind it, but we're not worrying about it.
Oh, she's awesome too.
Yep.
Funny as hell.
And this is a thing that sort of started in the 70s. Um, yeah, is just having your great um, other comedy performance in a bit. Like Foul Play does that, and that's like 76. So I assume,
Oh yeah.
but it also gets done with bad
And,
cameos, which is sort of what Naked Gun makes fun of. But yeah,
and that was the first time we saw like them shooting the proton pack.
yeah.
Um,
Are the proton pack special effects at least good in the new ones?
I, mm,
Okay,
mm.
here we get Slimer,
Yeah,
who would become the Garfield of Ghostbusters.
pretty
It,
much. Yeah,
and he's in the real Ghostbusters.
right. Like in the real Ghostbusters, he's kind of like a
Sidekick?
pet.
Yeah.
And then eventually, once for some reason they really tried to sell Slimer. I don't know if he was
I
popular, but
or if
when
they
the
just were
cartoon,
desperate to make him
yeah,
popular.
because the later episodes was they changed it. It was like Slimer and the real Ghostbusters.
Right. Oh yeah, by the end. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was I never thought that he was that popular that he would sort of
Be,
take the show over. Sort of.
yeah, because he was the only thing you could really license. You couldn't have a little Ghostbuster ghost because that's KKK Casper. Like, so
They actually have
eventually,
a there's a picture though, illustration
uh
with Casper and a bunch of famous ghosts,
huh,
and they're looking at Slimer and they're calling him a sellout.
uh huh. Okay, and here we just put Bill Murray in danger. So even though Murray's got the story lead when it comes to action,
Yeah,
he participates,
mm, he's
which is
slimy,
really
man.
cool. Yeah.
Feel funky.
And this would help with the slime revolution of the 80s. Like,
Oh God.
you couldn't go anywhere without.
Anywhere without slime, something.
And then Double Dare was what, 88 or something, and
Oh
Double
yeah,
Dare
that was the shit.
sort of just pushed it over the edge. But
Double Dare was
I'm pretty sure the original slime,
Nickelodeon in general,
yeah.
because
Oh
they had you
yeah,
can't do that on
you can't do
television,
that on television.
and
But
that
the
was kind of the.
original slime you'd get was, I think, toxic.
I
Like,
just remember they had it in the bubblegum machines too.
yep, it was in the bubblegum machines. You just could get And could you mix? Oh God! All right, no.
It was only
This,
good for so long
yeah,
till
and then
like
it turned into liquid, and you could
yeah,
mix it together, but that would accelerate it, and then yeah, like once it became like there was slime in the '70s, but I think that shit like caused cancer. Like
yeah, I don't doubt it.
it was a
Probably
big
some
deal
super
when there
unsafe
got to
shit.
be non toxic slime. That was a big old deal. Okay,
Right.
so Richard Edlund also did. Well, he did the effects for Poltergeist, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh. Now they say Slimer is partially based on John Belushi.
Okay.
Like, his whole the wild John.
Okay.
I don't know if they translated it. I don't think they made him look like him at all, but
Okay. It was just
yeah, the whole idea of this sloppy ghost that just eats and because he's not even doing anything.
wow.
Like he
And
wasn't even
that's
bothering people.
no, and that's like the funny thing is that's what's been terrorizing the hotel for years.
Yeah,
We also will not get into whether or not these are ghosts, but we don't really address what they started as. Like these are not undead spirits, really, for the
because
most
they're not
part.
in the form of humans at all,
Right.
with the exception of
The
in part
librarian
two,
ghost. And
the
then yeah, in part
librarian,
two.
the one in part two, the Scoleri brothers.
But then the librarian ghost becomes
She
a
turned to a
monster
monster.
ghost. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's very we're not interested in talking. We're not interested in exploring that aspect of it.
yeah, but in the cartoon they just go all out, which is again weird because like where did these creatures come from that they're ghosts
Mhm.
of? Which is why I think Ghostbusters and Men in Black would be a great crossover.
They
That would
should have
explain a
got
lot.
like, hey, Men in Black International should have been a no-brainer, and apparently it was the worst thing ever.
Because that's two of Dan Aykroyd's favorite things, paranormal and you know.
Aliens. Yeah.
Hey, is that Willard Pugh? Is that
Oh my god, I think it is. Look at him looking in the camera. That is totally
yeah?
Willard Pugh.
Is that Mayor Harpo from
It is Mayor
RoboCop?
Harpo from RoboCop. That's fucking awesome. Just looking at the camera, he's like, "They're gonna notice me. They're gonna notice
I
me."
know they noticed me. I know they see me. Yeah, that's him.
Oh yeah, it is. Okay, so here we start getting the media coverage of Ghostbusters. So Ghostbusters is also one of those '80s movies where the celebrity of the heroes is part of the point. Rocky would really do this too.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
to great
Hey, look at
effect
Rob
with Rocky
Zombie.
Six. Yep. But
Just
then we just
contemplating.
cut through that shit. We don't need any more of the story. We get a
No,
little bit of newspaper shit going on.
that might have actually been a real newspaper cover though, and that's a picture from later on in the movie.
Is that from the
That's
end?
when they're
Is
crossing the
oh,
streams.
it's
Yeah.
just when they literally just cut Ernie Hudson out again.
Yep. They cropped them out.
Okay, we don't even give Larry King his close up. He hadn't started demanding a close up, but we just
Right.
implied a uh, scene in Rockefeller Center, which is cool. So they are on location, but they're just driving around New York for a week shooting most of these shots.
The people in the back laughing.
Yep. Because that also
That is a
plays
good
in
shot,
is they
though.
look fucking silly, right? Oh,
Yeah,
look,
it's
is this
goofy looking.
Cuisinart? Do you want some Kirkomon soy sauce? I want some 10-cent salsa over there too, or whatever. I feel like that guy who's listening intently is somebody too.
Mm.
That's like one of Dan Aykroyd's bigger beats. For
Yeah,
Oh no, he gets this. He gets his cameo with his wife.
right.
He's like they're divorced by now, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
You know what's cool though is she plays a character in the comic that
Okay.
which is her story's pretty cool.
So
Now this was a part of
this
a bigger sequence, right?
and it got cut.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Like it was supposed to be Ray and Winston, and they go to some outpost that's being haunted.
And that's what they're coming back from during that long drive, I'll bet.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
Ray, he goes away to another room dressed as one of the like in the general costume or whatever. And now here's Ernie Hudson pinch hitting for Eddie Murphy.
How far along did they get it with Eddie Murphy?
Ah, you got to factor in Beverly Hills Cop from where they drop Stallone and pick up Eddie, and then, but then again, prep for this was what 83. So him and Aykroyd were probably talking about it during
Trading
trading
places.
places, yeah, and then the deal probably fell apart when he was offered Beverly Hills Cop, probably.
Well, yeah, I mean, and the other thing is Trading Places is positioned as a Dan Aykroyd vehicle, but it's not. Like,
No.
and he
Speaking
walks
of
away with it.
Beverly Hills Cop, there's what's his face playing. It's Timothy. What's his face?
Okay.
He was a villain in Beverly Hills Cop 3. Ellis DeWald. And it's assumed that he is the father of Oscar,
Really?
Sigourney
Okay.
Weaver's son in the second one.
Interesting. But here they are in somewhere on location. We're doing the
Oh yeah.
classy thing where we're not doing an establishing shot. We're doing it not from the street. So that's classy.
And this also suggests that they don't do anything else now but Ghostbusting because Venkman's still in his uniform
Yeah.
under the jacket.
Well, if you're getting $5,000,
Yeah. You don't take too many
oh yeah,
breaks.
we didn't talk about that. They were freaking out earlier because Ray triple mortgaged his parents' house and he's gonna owe 95,000 or something, and it's like they're acting like that's a lot, and I'm like, okay, calm down, guys. Go catch, I don't know, a couple hundred ghosts. You'll be fine. There's also that we'll get to that. With speaking of Winston, is he's the one who realizes things are getting worse,
Yeah.
and you're like, what the fuck? Is or Harold Ramis has the measurements too, but like apparently Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray don't get it. Okay, here's one of those good cuts.
Oh yeah. Or he does the
The
spin.
spin based off of this other guy on the roller skates. And yeah, the grid. Now, the grid would be a big deal in the cartoon, right?
In the cartoon, it's huge.
Yeah.
Like they, but again, they actually what I like about the cartoon is that they really explain it. They explain
Yeah.
that since they're in the business of doing that, they had to rebuild it for more space or something. Here he comes.
Where did she end up on TV? She was on Designing Women? Or was she
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the other one? Okay, she was
She
on
did
Designing Women.
she was on Designing Women. I think she stayed the whole show, right? She was one of the ones.
Stuck it out. Well, I
Yeah.
mean,
Here we go.
there we go.
William motherfucking Atherton.
Really
Always the
in,
asshole.
I mean, not always. Romantic leading man, tragic leading man of the early 70s turned
Yeah.
80s.
80s jerk.
He had this, he had
He's so good at it though. Like,
yeah, he had this Real Genius, which
yeah, real genius. No
eh,
comment.
no comment. And then Die Hard, of course, Die Hard 1 and 2. He never has come back. They never have brought him back to a Die Hard, which should have been the very least they could have done in Die Hard 5. They could have just acknowledged they were that desperate and brought Atherton back. He sort of infamously refused to do Mallrats because he didn't
Wow.
want to be typecast in this part. And then he turned around and did Biodome with Pauly Shore. And
Which really sucked.
yeah.
I watched that recently too. Uh,
Yeah, those were really bad. The Pauly
Biodome
Shore
was so
movies
garbage.
were really bad.
Like Pauly Shore, I'll give him what uh Encino Man and Son-in-Law. But past that, once he started believing in his bullshit and was just doing Weasel every fucking movie. By the time In the Army Now and Jury Duty and all those
All
came out,
right.
that was a wrap.
Okay. Probably shouldn't have let Bill Murray run that meeting. Okay, so
Look at
here
the
it is.
'80s.
The big
Look at the
Twinkie.
'80s.
Look at him
The
just all
cigarette.
smoking. Let's just have a refreshing cigarette. Ah.
Laramie Lights. Oh, the
Oh, and a
Twinkie.
Twinkie. Yeah, not to mention our Twinkie.
No.
Think about how much time was spent in acting classes just on smoking.
Right. So I'm guessing Ray and Peter were out at some point because they both have slime on their suits.
Oh, yeah, they were getting back. I think
They were getting
that
back.
yes, that was still Winston's first day.
Right.
Okay, so here where he's hired on the spot. Here's our rooftop set that will not get a lot of use. Not this version of it, but this is the first time we see it. And they didn't really do an establishing shot of
Yeah.
this being,
A central spot, point of interest.
yeah. Whereas we had the shot of the over the shoulder, as it were, of the gargoyle grotesque earlier. So that's the one thing where I'm like, was it not ready yet or something? Like, okay, so here's the party that he sort of implied was going to be almost immediately in the future. Like,
Oh yeah. He's so hurt. That's okay.
boom, that's right. And we can't be in the same shot together. So we're going to be panning and scanning between the two of them.
Yeah.
And so this came out on Criterion Laserdisc, and I think like 90 or something. And so there was like a widescreen version out there, and by 94, 93, 94, Entertainment Weekly pretty regularly would at least review a couple of those a year, and Ghostbusters got to be one of the big examples. Ghostbusters and Die Hard were
Oh yeah,
your
once it
big examples.
you saw it in the right frame rate
Yeah,
and the you know
once you had
the right aspect ratio.
yeah, it was just all
So for
over.
years, this even on VHS, I think they had the pan and scan version. And it's
Oh
just
yeah, yeah. But they,
there's
I
that jerky pan over, which is
well, it's, even
thick.
this you can't do. You can't do this in pan and scan. You can't,
No,
like, you have to keep moving. You have to keep the fuzzy frame in the center going, so it just fuzzes. Like, and as TVs got better, it just got more obvious. Like, if you were your ideal screen for a pan and scan is probably like a, I don't know, 13-inch kitchen TV, for Christ's sake. Like,
yeah.
once they started getting big, you started to, and clear, you could notice it. So
Okay, I think we're gonna get a whoops. We're gonna get a whoops shot.
this is a very close encounters. Okay.
Watch those hands.
Yep.
Somebody's gonna Janet Jackson Sigourney here. Uh,
Oh, I think she's in the leotard though.
Probably, but it looks like it flops
Yeah.
right the hell out.
Yep. Okay. And here we go. The last time it's ever going to look quite like this.
Yeah. Now, at Universal Studios, Florida, for years, they had the Ghostbusters stage show, which recreated that whole set, the roof
Okay.
set. It was kind of cool because they had the big giant Stay Puft come up.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So
And
they actually didn't do any product placement in his kitchen. So
no,
that's kind of cool. Though he does have a, um, they should have made Fight Club with Rick Moranis. Uh,
Moranis improvised all of this shit.
wow.
Yeah.
I also like the implication that his,
Yeah. If they made Fight Club, though,
yeah.
with Moranis, his Tyler Durden would have
Oh,
to
the
be
Tyler
somebody else.
Durden would be, oh, I don't know, but what if it wasn't?
His Tyler Durden would be like Harrison Ford or some shit. That would be something where he could just cut loose and not give a fuck.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. We got the presumably life size. Oh shit, that picture of Rick Moranis in his
The graduation
graduation.
picture.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome. Okay,
Oh,
everybody. So
see, now that I think they could redo.
yeah, the monsters weren't really there, but there was really shit exploding with the actors around. Like, as we note that the dog has the same laying pose.
The same. You barely see the back of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody else sees the creature here,
Yeah.
right?
It's a cougar. Or
Now, here's the part that confused me. Now, I guess it's supposed to be a joke on New Yorkers
yes, it's a joke on the indifference of New Yorkers.
because here you don't see it at all.
No,
As it,
this is very Night of the Demon, Curse of the Demon. Yeah,
hmm
as opposed to everybody else having seen it. I think the only explanation for that, though, is that they just simply can't see it from their angle because
right.
everybody else did.
Yeah, he's in front of the window, and
And there's never been, outside of Dana Barrett's refrigerator, there's never a,
like he's literally turned around, and it's coming from him from an
it's
angle where
turned
you
around
should
and
be
it's
able to.
coming from him where we should be able to see him. But the other thing you got to look at, yeah, it's so fucking close, but there's no place for it to be
Yeah, see,
standing
as he goes
there
down,
with those
you don't see
chairs.
anything.
Well, no, because it's incorporated into him at that point.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
maybe that's
Right.
it.
It got
But yeah,
jumped
no.
into him.
They also
Yeah.
no, they couldn't figure out how to mat it in back there. Is what really happened. There's only so much you could do in 1984.
Yeah, 84. Now, during that scene, they're supposed to cut to two characters played by Bill Murray and Aykroyd. They were bums. That's in a deleted scene, and they
Okay,
cut it because it was confusing. Like, why would
we
these
need
idiots?
okay, if that shit is available, like for real, we might need to do an extended cut. Like, I'm so
Oh, it is.
curious.
It's part of the extra features on
All
one of the
right. On one of the
Blu-rays, I think.
discs? Okay.
Yeah,
We might have to head over to the
they have all
archive,
the
as they say.
they have all the deleted scenes. I think
Now,
they even have
also,
the. Hmm.
Sony would infamously go on to create extended cuts that had no input from the creatives. So if you see an extent, like there's a extended Black Hawk Down that Ridley Scott had nothing to do with. The extended Patriot has not, like, they were just like, no, we'll just do it. Like, we've got home
God,
video rights.
yeah,
Okay, but yes, so here is the beginning of
yeah. She's
Sexy
possessed.
Exorcist. Yes.
She's
So,
possessed by a solid gold dancer.
right, like, I like the implication that the possession physically changes her makeup.
Hmm. Yeah. The thing I like though about this is that it's not just because Venkman realizes that she's possessed, but like he really turns.
Yeah,
He gives a shit to the point that he's not trying to take advantage.
yeah. But yes, this is another big nice redeeming for for Bill Murray. A
Hmm.
leading man wouldn't take advantage. This is an Animal House, for goodness sake.
Wasn't Ivan Reitman answering for that forever? Like that one scene.
That wasn't Reitman though. Animal House
No,
was
yeah, that was
Landis.
Landis. That's right, Landis.
Landis is responsible. Be like, what are you talking about? I met my wife when she was in high school. It's normal. It explains Max. Max Landis, the most obvious creep that it took forever for people to acknowledge. Well, second most obvious. The first one's going to prison for 30 years. Zoink.
Woo.
Okay, here we get some badass levitation effects. And we also haven't
Yeah.
been talking about the Elmer Bernstein score.
Oh yeah.
Ghostbusters has one of the great 80s scores.
Yes.
This is a like John Williams of the
Yeah,
70s
because
and 80s level thing.
it's very noticeable.
Yeah, and it really like emphasizes the thing and focuses. It's just so fucking good.
And in itself, it's kind of a character in the movie.
Yeah. Okay. Back on location, but also not, making a big deal out of it. We're just always shooting in New York. This isn't Toronto.
No, not at all.
Now, no one. Now he would be running down an empty lot in Atlanta, and it would be CGI'd in.
The background.
They just wouldn't even have the shot. That's the big problem with this sort of our change to sound stages for everything is that we've sort of lost any interest in like emphasizing the location. It's really weird. And apparently only James Cameron cares enough to make the fucking scenery and shit.
God bless Blu-ray,
Yep.
because back in the day, that door. All that whole area was just a black void.
Yep. Oh, I can't even imagine. Like, think about how much work they put in to light that street too. Like,
Yeah.
how many fucking floodlights are up there? Every light of Crystal Lake is lighting that street right now. Like, and Laszlo is able to make it look. See, what you would have in your cheapy shit is okay. So we never address the dog on the screen either. I love
I
it.
like that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I remember the first time I noticed that. I was like, wait a minute. That
Well, you wouldn't be able to see it on. You'd
on
barely be
regular
able to see
TV.
that on regular TV.
But then when they finally, had it framed right, it made
Candle and
sense.
Monster Squad. Candle and Monster Squad. They cut the fucking candle out of the candle blown out. Nobody
Yeah, the
believed
panel
me for
blowing out.
years. And I'm like, okay, here's just fucking Rick Moranis's fucking best supporting actor reel. Like,
Yeah, because he's rattling this shit right off. A giant shark. He's twitching his face and shit.
He's so good.
Yeah.
He and 80s Martin Short never did a movie together, right? They never touched and the universe imploded.
That's a good question because again, they were all the SCTV guys
Yeah.
managed to do movies together. Like Going Berserk is a underrated fucking movie with John Candy. Like half the people from SCTV was in that. Eugene Levy was hilarious in this shit.
Okay, yeah. So I would assume this would be intercut with that Winston and Ray subplot because this is the point where Dan Aykroyd's basically just gone.
Right. Like he hasn't been around since the Twinkie scene, I think.
Yeah, and meanwhile,
It's been a
Harold
chunk of
Ramis
movie.
gets the main sort of subplot to Bill here. But if you didn't shoot this, if it wasn't Laszlo shooting it, if it wasn't fucking Panavision,
I love that shot.
yeah, it wouldn't have held up the same way. Like, okay, so here now we're gonna get the
This
only
is where
religion talk. Yeah.
I would assume they were coming back from that cut scene with Ray and the ghost.
And based on that exposition, though, I don't think we would have had them picking up the plans. Okay. But then here we get Winston talking about the religious connotations of what's been going on lately. And
Yeah.
Ray is establishing that there's truths in all ancient religions. And Winston thinks it might be more direct. This will be the only real addressing of this, despite bringing in religious figures as sight gags later, which is pretty funny. And also made me realize we definitely need to do the two Kongs because it's sort of
Shit, yeah.
similar.
Definitely.
Okay, how about a little music? But that's not what they're listening to. This is like obviously a place where they weren't able to get an original song.
Or something, because yeah, that is kind of
Yeah.
weird where it
Let's
dips
listen to some smooth funk. Like, we find out that Winston and Ray bonded over hold music. Their love of hold music.
fucking Ray's, Elwood Blues' cousin. So
Yes, yes. So Winston never gets a locker in this one either, I don't think.
Uh, well, it gets blown up anyway.
Well, it's going to get blown up anyway. But yeah.
Yeah. But again, the cartoon, especially the early episodes of the cartoon, they kind of cover a lot of shit from the movie, like how they got Slimer and
I mean, that's kind of the thing about those spin-off cartoons, especially that one, because that was sort of tasked with keeping the brand alive
the
with
cool one
new
was
material.
yeah. The cool one was the episode where they explained why they switched jumpsuits.
Hmm.
Is because when they were covered in Stay Puft Marshmallow goo, it manifested into evil, ghostly versions of the Ghostbusters
Oh, wow.
that they had to. Yeah, that was a cool episode. So they had to fight themselves. So that's why they got color coded jumpsuits in the cartoon.
Did they have a toy series for Real Ghostbusters at the time, or did it have to wait a bit?
No, when the cartoon dropped, everything because remember there was a space. There was like 84, then 85. The cartoon came out in 86, so I think by the time the cartoon came out, they were ready to roll the toys.
Okay. And Real Ghostbusters was able to sort of accomplish in that what droids and Ewoks did not, right? Like, even
Exactly.
though droids and Ewoks figures were the same scale as regular Star Wars,
Oh,
they
dude,
had,
the droids figures,
yeah,
especially R2 and 3PO, were just the same mold,
yeah. So,
repainted.
but yeah, but they weren't able to sort of convince the Star Wars cartoon spin-offs did not appeal enough
No.
to Jon Favreau. So he didn't want those figures. He was going to make his own Jango Fett figure or whatever. So he painted it. Jon Favreau, of course, was 17 at the time, by the way, as he was putting together his play sets. I mean, there's literally no other explanation for the Mandalorian. That is the explanation for it, is that Jon Favreau still calls them his toys. There's a cameo in this scene, but we're not going to call it out. Okay. So more nice New York street shots. So we aren't done on location. And that's the other thing about Ghostbusters is there is still to this day no urban sci-fi action spectacle like Ghostbusters. Like
No.
the you can
Closest you got was what Attack the Block.
yeah, and even
Footage.
that is too far along, right? Because
Yeah.
there's Stay Puff reference again, right
Mhm.
next to the roof. But this is a very like
Love this shot.
poltergeisty, yeah.
Yeah. Look at that.
This is what somebody would have been like, this is Poltergeist too, and they're like, nah, we're doing a thing with Native Americans. It's gonna be fucking awful. Okay.
This too, where the window gets blown out.
Yep.
Dope.
We get this, we get a bump in. We're establishing that people are looking around, and this, of course, this is what Superman needed, to some
Yeah.
extent, was and it the
Oh,
thing
this
about
scared the
the
shit out of me
yeah,
back in
this
the
was
day.
the
Jesus.
scariest fucking thing.
Ah,
But this also never gets addressed. Are
no.
ghosts possessing and murdering real people? We're
It,
not going to
it
address
already
that.
dead body in there, a
Yeah.
corpse.
No, because it fucking I think it possesses the person in there and eats them. There we get
Mm,
Slimer's second
Slimer.
to last shot. But yes, here is full on. We got Sigourney Weaver to agree to wear this around in full light. Yeah. We get this
See, watch
fucking
this.
awesome explosion shot. And
Yeah.
this makes more sense when you find out that the building's only about 25 stories tall. When they act like it's like 50, this like, I'm like, how would anybody on the street see that? And it's like, oh, it's because it's not actually that tall. But your alternative to this now is something like the Avengers, where you shoot on 2 blocks and CGI in the rest, right? Like,
Yeah.
you just don't have to do it this way anymore, but that also means you don't get to do it this way anymore, where you get to figure these
Mhm.
things out. And I mean, what's it called? Die Hard 3 is a good urban action movie, but it doesn't have the sci-fi element to it,
Uh-uh.
which nothing else really ever got to do. Like,
It's supposed to be gritty and
even
streetwise.
when Spielberg finally did the whatever fucking dinosaurs in Santa Monica, that was still CG. It was still not what it would have been if they'd done some huge scale thing in the 80s, which just
No.
never happened. Though I basically just described why Masters of the Universe fails. Uh,
Eh. Well, it was
well,
canon.
yeah, that was
Canon
canon, but yeah.
Canon did everything on a cheap. Any dollar they could save, they did. Even if Masters of the Universe was them splurging.
So the other thing about this is the movie's basically all of the third act is going to hinge on a bunch of talking head, like all this exposition is going to set us up for
Yeah.
the third act, and they do it really quick.
Yeah, that's the good thing about this movie. The pacing is
Oh
very
yeah, I think
on.
it's yeah, I think it's mostly because they tie together their imprisonment and the sort of establishing the end of the world setting off.
Yeah.
So it's like it gives us a really nice third act thing.
You know, I just thought of something. It's kind of weird they didn't consider Garrett Morris for Winston.
He and Bill Murray probably hated each other.
Maybe. I don't know.
Or no, Garrett Morris knew that he would be getting the fucking shit end of the stick. There he
Yeah,
is.
there you go. Yep. That Reginald Bell Johnson.
He could be playing,
Carl Winslow. Yeah.
yep,
A New York based Carl
New
Winslow.
York based Carl Winslow or New York
Or they
based
moved to Chicago.
what's his face?
Oh yeah,
Al.
Al Powell.
Reginald Vell Johnson as cop is basically all the same character. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is fine.
It's
And
his
it's a
variant in the multiverse.
yep. Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Here we just get Bernstein going, nope, you need romance fantasy. I can do that.
Yeah.
Acknowledging the height differential.
And the problem is they're both possessed, so like Lewis can't even enjoy the
Right.
He won't even know that they did any of this.
Nope. And there's the stairwell that we should be paying more attention to than we are. But it'll be important later. Okay. So yeah, this is basically Ghostbusters are celebrities. They're the heroes.
Oh, the mayor.
Yep. Wait a second. Is that no?
Hmm.
It looked like Larry B. Scott or whatever his name is from
Oh
Revenge
no.
of the Nerds.
He'd have been too young.
Yeah. Okay,
Or
so
actually, Revenge of the Nerds came out that year.
this is I always think that's earlier, but it's not.
You're right. It
Because
feels like a earlier 80s.
yeah, it really because that Revenge of the Nerds was the studio TNA comedy,
Yeah.
basically. Okay, so the joke of the pan and scan, haha joke is that basically Ernie Hudson will get erased from scenes. Um,
Completely. Just
just
like
complete
he's
like
not
this
even
one,
there.
he's not even there.
Yeah.
But when you watch it, he still gets the reaction shots. So it's
Right.
just like all of a sudden, it's like, hey, it's Ernie Hudson.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
Ernie Hudson is in this movie.
There's a nice implication that the Catholic Church is in some way corrupt in a second here, which is very on point. But yeah, so this also will play into the second one. The second one deals with them being, celebrities, and that's
We're actually failed celebrities
failed
in the beginning.
celebrities,
Yeah.
which is sort of what Jurassic Park 2 does in a way.
Yeah,
Like,
to a degree. But the only thing is it's only Ian Malcolm who like
yeah,
wouldn't have cared either way. That's kind of his personality.
but yeah, so Peck's theory is that they are gassing. They are going into people's homes, filling it with gas, convincing them that they have ghosts through their TV commercial, like causing an
Yeah, causing
subliminal
hallucinations.
suggestion, which then would lead to the hallucination, which then they go and clean up the gas, which
Yeah.
immediately cures the person suffering the gas. It's just like,
So that he accusing him of doing what Michael J. Fox would eventually do, sort of a variation of that in the Frighteners. Only
okay,
he actually used real ghosts.
right, that's right. Michael J. Fox used the real ghosts to do it, but yeah, it's a very complicated science based con.
That's another one that just I'm so upset that didn't take off. We could at least
Yeah.
got a sequel to that.
Oh, I feel like Frighteners could have done four.
You think so?
They would have
Or at
had to
least
get
by
rid of.
part four. Michael J. Fox would have been out by four, I think. I don't think he would have
Yeah,
done all
they
four.
could have. They could have given him a sidekick in three,
Yeah. And
and
then
then you bring
sidekick in
back
four.
the two,
The ghosts,
the
yeah.
ghosts. Yeah, you do a cameo. You give him a cameo.
Yeah.
He and Trini Alvarado sits out three because it was such a bad choice to bring her back in the second one. And then there's a cameo with the two of them in four. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, yeah, you
What
could
happened to
do,
her? Damn.
once
Oh
you
wow.
establish, once you can establish the ghosts are real and he can do other cases, you can do however many you can come up with a good case for. I'd much rather have the Frighteners than Knives Out, right? Like,
This guy here, look at the redhead.
oh
So
yeah, he's in
enthusiastic.
another shot
He's in another shot. He's the
over here
Ghostbusters.
somewhere.
All
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
he's like clearly running around. His agent was like, "You stay in that fucking shot. You just stay in that shot.
Yeah. Just
You
get in
pretend
there.
you're Donald Pleasance."
Dun, dun.
That's the funniest thing about. So Donald Pleasance had this line about how you always move your hands around in a shot. You always stay busy, so they need you in shots for continuity. And so then you watch like the 79 Dracula, and he's literally cleaning his watch every fucking shot. He's like, I gotta come back tomorrow, bitches.
All right, here comes the dude.
There he is. He
Yeah,
fucking
look.
crossed the street.
Yeah, he ran across the street. All right,
And that's
Ghostbusters.
Paul Wegg, everybody. And Dan Aykroyd turned to him and said, "You should make a sequel with all women, Paul Wegg." And that's how Ghostbusters 2016 happened. It was Dan Aykroyd's idea from that scene
Oh,
in a certain
don't
universe. I
don't
know.
put that on him.
Hey now. We're already tempted fate with this duology as it is. So Where's
Okay.
Winston? Oh, there he is.
Completely behind them, obscured by the damn proton.
No, it's
All
just
you see
like,
is the tip of his forehead. God damn.
oh man.
I guess they didn't think he was going to come back if offered a sequel. I don't know. Just shitty. Just
Okay, so here we get so Ghostbusters third act is basically just a bunch of cliffhangers quickly resolved, which is fine because there's enough comedy mixed in, and this is a nice establishing thing with like
and there's
they're
just
heroizing, and also the special effects are fucking killer. Like,
yeah.
oh, and they're not cheap, right? We're gonna get establishing shots of the building, and the street is gonna be fucked up like this. Like, this is the attention to detail that pretty much nobody but a ILM movie had, right? Like,
Yeah.
you had to go for this attention to detail. You had to go see a sci-fi movie, not a fucking the first ever blockbuster comedy. Because this is basic. I mean, well, okay, does Smokey and the Bandit count or whatever? But like, this was the first '80s blockbuster comedy. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yep. There wasn't anything bigger than this,
no,
comedy wise.
and it would go far in showing that there was room for comedy and things like, which
But
leads to, okay, look at how, okay, they're in the teens now.
yeah.
So let's say that means they're at 13 or 14. The building's only got another 10 actual floors based on the story. So 2, 4,
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8. There's at least 35 floors in that shot.
Good
At
looking at.
least,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's still funny. Okay. So we
Ooh,
missed the scene where they bang on the altar, but now we get
Tim's. Sigourney, Sigourney.
what's a
Oh.
song that could be playing now? Cherry Pie, sung by Rick Moranis or something. Okay, that would be awesome. I'm sorry. That would have been great. Okay, but here now we get a very different set, right, than that one. It's like they had the full size
It's
set of
bigger.
that, and then they had the uh gargoyle set. Yeah.
Yeah, the standard. But then again, this could be said that somehow it was altered
Yeah.
because
I mean, that's the great thing about Ghostbusters. It's
yeah,
fine. We don't
they could do
we're
any old
not
thing.
gonna we don't literalize like,
Oh shit.
but yeah, no, that is bigger than that other set was. Because that other set was a miniature, I'm sure.
It was hardly
Yeah.
who
Who
had the
has the
kid.
kid? Yes. Same thought. Okay, so here's that shot I was talking about where we can see the destruction on the street, our wonderful matte painting.
Yeah.
That immediately we're like, wait a
Wow.
second, isn't that during the day though? And yes, it is, but it gets to be night by the time they walk up these stairs.
Yeah, that's another thing. I'm only guessing that the nighttime was induced.
Right?
Those are
Like,
induced.
we don't.
I think it
Gozer's
was
only in the movie for
magically done.
for 2 minutes or something. Like,
I just because it's
okay,
night.
how do
It's
you do this
usually
shot? How do you do that shot in pan? That establishing shot of that? How do you do that shot in pan and scan? What are you gonna do? You're gonna show the center, which is the fucking. That's like, and that's what people. Well, okay, so here's my inflammatory joke. The reason that we have the Ghostbusters fans we do now is because they grew up watching this pan and scan when Ernie Hudson was cut out of the movie. So they didn't realize that even though the movie does not a good job of keeping Ernie Hudson in the movie either. Really quick transformation, not a werewolf transformation there. We're just
yeah, they just turn them right into the
yep.
Harryhausen's.
Trailer shot. Okay. Now we go to Xanadu there.
Right.
But then we're going to get
Yeah.
this incredibly effective sequence where we never are going to see the Ghostbusters in that space. Instead, we're going to imply it
Yeah,
all
they're
through them
standing
looking
right
at
there close.
Xanadu. Yeah. It has great production design. Like those obelisks or whatever the fuck they're called also
Hmm.
show up in there. Like it's really well done. Like in a way that very little of this time period was versus outside of a Spielberg or Lucas production.
Go get her, right?
Okay, so we just pan and scan over when they look at each other, right? That's fine.
Yeah. See, this is Aykroyd just killing it.
Yep.
I love this little bit. I don't know how he does that, just so rapid fire.
Was Ray impressed that he could do it, or was Dan Aykroyd impressed that he got all that out in one take finally?
He was really good at that, though.
Yeah.
Like, even on SNL.
Aykroyd got like he was in what's it called? Okay, so you'll note Ernie Hudson's not in that shot. He fucking
No.
saves them,
Yeah, he
but he
pulled them
gets
back.
cut out of the shot that he saves them.
Here, look at that.
And then he gets this killer line.
Mhm. I'm guessing it was easier to do it with a dark background. I don't know. That's why they turned it
Yeah,
into night.
it's just, and you get that nice contrast with the dry
Yeah.
ice in the front and the fog machine. Um, but yes, see everybody. It's always easier to do special effects when there's not visible background. It's not just today.
Hey, that's not Olivia Wilde.
This always confused me as a kid, though.
Yeah.
So she vanishes and turns into a voiceover with a different
Hmm.
voice.
Right. It's kind of a weird battle. Yeah, this one was sort of really confusing because they don't. The proton packs are no use whatsoever till they actually,
Right.
do the
And
callback to
also,
crossing the streams.
crossing the streams doesn't actually have any like
Yeah, it doesn't.
discernible, like, it doesn't actually tear the fabric of space time.
No. Wow, and
But
at one
what's
shot,
actually like kind
everything.
of what was really smart about, even though this movie doesn't sort of play this as slapstick, the car it the cartoon
Oh, dude.
guys realized that it could be played that way.
Yeah. But the cartoon, honestly, the cartoon could get a little hardcore too.
Yeah, it did though. That was like that
Like the
was
one
one of the
episode where the guy wanted to end the world because his girlfriend broke up with him, and like his little sidekick gives a speech at the end and just suns his ass. Like,
yeah.
everybody's had their heart broken, you asshole.
No, I just meant with the action comedy, like for the
Yeah.
physical stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But the cartoon really, they
What?
had powerhouse writers because they could balance that shit. And
Yeah.
really, some of the episode scripts are a little better than the movie.
Especially the second one. I mean, no.
Oh yeah. Well, the second one was kind of spawned from the popularity of the cartoon. You could tell it was
Yeah.
super influenced by. I'm surprised they didn't have like the uniforms like the cartoon.
I mean, the second one, they wanted Slimer back because of the fucking cartoon, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Slimer was officially Slimer because
And
here
Bill
he's
Murray
not
didn't
Slimer
like being part of a fucking
franchise
commercial
like that.
franchise like that.
Mm-hmm.
He was a serious actor. We'll need to go over his oeuvre when we do part two from that era, just because.
Well, he didn't do much else in the
What do
'80s,
you
remember?
remember besides Ghostbusters Part Two,
Because he stood up a lot. He passed up a lot of shit in the '80s because he was being a diva about that shit.
including Batman? Everyone.
Yeah. Bill Murray as Bruce Wayne as Batman. Would you believe that? Gee, how would they do his hair?
Oh God, can you even imagine? Yeah.
I don't know. Bill Murray is kind of Blue Beetle-esque. I just can't see him as Batman though. Like,
Ooh, Bill
yeah,
Murray is Ted Cord. There you go. Who's his booster?
Booster. No, 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 no.
Oh,
No.
there's William Atherton.
Yeah, but he's not. William Atherton's a different kind of funny.
No, not booster. He was just on
Oh
screen.
yeah, he was just on there. Yeah,
Yeah, he lives. I forgot that we William Atherton will get more close-ups before the end of the movie than
Ernie.
Ernie Hudson. Yeah.
Well, he gets the shit splurged on him. The marshmallow splooge.
Everybody gets foam. It's foam. Besides Bill Murray.
Besides it, Bill Murray.
And
Yeah.
there seems to be like they cut a bit about how Bill Murray didn't get any audit because everybody's like looking at him like they just mentioned it.
Well, the
And
funny thing is, it's kind of in line with the character though.
yeah,
Like Venkman would find a way to like dodge out of the way.
yeah. And let everybody else take the hit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is why him getting slimed first was so funny and endearing and
right.
did such a good job in changing the character. Yeah. Because Ghostbusters is really smartly put together. Like, and also you've got to think about watching this, and to some degree, Gremlins as well. We're all watching this together in the movie theater, and we're getting to this incredibly lengthy conclusion, right? Like, this final
Yeah,
action sequence is about 45 minutes continuous scenes. So, like, you're all waiting to see what happens. So it's a really good structure
yeah,
for a blockbuster. And the reason you don't do it anymore is because you don't have to, which also means you don't
no.
get to. Like, arguably,
Well,
Star Trek
oh,
3
yeah.
has something very similar in the really lengthy conclusion sort of thing.
Now they'd have to explain that somehow because in real life, the motherfuckers would be dead.
Yep.
Explosion, unless
Well,
that's
also, don't forget rocks. We miss the rocks falling on people.
yeah.
Boom.
Now
Fuck you, Atherton.
in the extended version of that, the hat falls down. They show the Stay Puft hat float down.
I feel bad for Richard Edlund. Like, he did Poltergeist 1, then he did Poltergeist 2, Then he did Monster Squad. He sort of just became, he got really rote really quick. Like,
Mm.
you could always
Well, he
tell
got
when it was
showed up too a bit by
yeah,
because the '80s was the come up for the special effects guys
yeah.
all over.
And Edlund sort of didn't stay. Did he do the effects for two?
I think
Even?
so,
Okay.
maybe because they're very you know similar.
Why aren't you covered in anything, Bill Murray? Okay. And then, ooh, sorry, Venkman.
Yeah. Oh, Fankman. And then they cut the they, they, they cut to him covered in his shit. Look at that right. Oh, all right. Get her out of there.
Do they have a cut scene where she finds a coat before going outside? No, pay attention. She's wearing a coat. She's not wearing her fucking.
The dress?
She's not wearing the dress in the last shot. I mean, she's wearing a coat over it.
Oh yeah. Well, they still had to make it back downstairs.
Yeah.
So
Go check on that.
the little guy.
And here he says the magic words, "Who does your taxes?" Um, Lewis Tully is a precursor to Leo Getz, the
Yeah. Yeah,
the
definitely.
accountant sidekick.
Well, what's his face had cut scenes playing his cousin, Eugene Levy.
In this one or the next one?
I think in this one,
Okay.
maybe. Either way, they put him in the comic book anyways. Somehow they work him into the comic book.
Who was that guy? Was he in any of the other shots? I'm confused. I want to know his name. I want to know that actor's name. I'm just finishing the movie. I'd really like to see his name. Show me his name, movie. Let's see. Okay, so she's wearing a bathrobe, so clearly on the way through her destroyed apartment. Where's that one dude? Now we've got a different mohawk guy trying to get in the shot back there. Okay, Dan Aykroyd. Sigourney Weaver
Weaver.
gets to
See,
look at the
she's got her own
camera.
robe
Yeah.
on.
Harold Ramis
Harold
gets it,
Ramis.
but does Annie Potts? Nope. Rick Moranis is going to get
Moranis.
it. Yeah.
And then you cut to Ernie Hudson, who
Nope. You don't even cut to Ernie Hudson, man. It's
no,
so bad.
Annie
Nope.
Potts.
Annie Potts, who's not in that shot. Okay. William
William Atherton.
Atherton. Nope. Okay. Yep.
See, there
They
we go.
just remembered it's Ernie Hudson, and
Oh yeah, he's in this too.
he's in this too. Ernie Hudson's just like, Jesus, my agent is a piece of shit. Like,
Poor Dorman's all tore up.
yep. We've got the priests. So yeah, we missed it. They're priests praying and they're like rabbis in another shot. Okay, so Sheldon Kahn and his co-editor here, Dave Blewett, they did not blow it. But this also sort of started the idea of we had those indifferent New Yorkers before, but like real New Yorkers, the ones who aren't in Table at the Green or whatever that place is called, they all are going to come out and party for the Ghostbusters. I also like how the song sort of forgets that it's about real ghost busting and not a euphemism for fucking. Like, that's good for the kids. And here we go. We'll be back in Back to the Future too.
Right? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
And there it is. And we've got our bluesy rock blues conclusion because it's Dan Aykroyd, and this would be his brand until, I don't know, Blues Brothers 2000, I guess, in some ways.
Whoa. Oh yeah. Ghostbusters cleaning up. Nope.
We've got a nice 4-minute end credits because we're going to have a lot of optical effects credits in a bit. Oh,
But nowhere near
we're
that of
already into the Elmer Bernstein. Okay.
well no, it goes back because
Okay.
it samples the soundtrack. This is
It's a
probably one of the first
really
end
good
credit crawls
score.
I sat through. I like the second one too. I don't think that's Elmer Bernstein, but the second one's
Oh,
not
it
bad either.
really does a. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a sample platter, the soundtrack.
Can I get this soundtrack possibly on records and cassettes from anyone? We'll have to see.
Probably RCA.
Oh. Okay, John Bruno, Conrad Buff. These were big effects guys. I think Neil Kripke. Oh, Mats. Yeah, his name's familiar.
Head of Ghost Shop. Godfather.
Ronald B. Moore, not Ronald D. Moore. Okay. That would have been weird. We don't have any James Cameron, though. We're a little bit too late for that.
Oh yeah. That would have been about 81.
Yeah.
Onion Head. See, Onion Head was Slimer originally.
Okay. Bernie Wrightson, baby.
Oh
Bernie
yeah.
Wrightson.
All right.
Saving the day.
Hot Night. Laura Branigan. Wow.
Yep. Diane Warren wrote it. And then with the doctor.
Laura Branigan and Atlantic Records. All right. Cleaning up the town. The Bus Boys, who were huge in soundtracks back then. Thompson Twins.
Thompson Twins and Air Supply.
Supply. Mick Smiley. I believe it's magic.
Original soundtrack album available on
Arista.
Arista. Yeah.
Wow.
And now we get the nice romantic closeout. Yeah. Oh, wait. Special thanks to the Los Angeles Public Library. We actually shot that sequence.
Probably the
The
what?
stacks. I think they shot the
Yeah,
stacks.
stack.
Yeah. Okay. So now we do have our clump at the top there before we cut to our.
Yeah, there's a space before the Gozer.
Alice Drummond is the librarian. Michael Ensign. Timothy
Here we
Carhart
go.
is the violinist. Here, yeah.
Cameos.
Joe Cirillo, his name's familiar. Reggie Vel Johnson. Wow. Okay.
Gene Kasem. Right.
These are very like. This is what they should have.
Dream
There's a
Ghost.
good like non-Williams Superman Metropolis theme.
Yeah.
Even for Lester, right? Like some humor to it, but yeah. All right. Columbia Delphi. I don't remember the deal with Delphi.
They were around for a while, I think.
Yeah.
Though. An Ivan Reitman film. Bernie Brillstein. Yay! Ghostbusters!
Next summer, Ghostbusters 2. No, that would have been. the real thing would have been if this had been, 10 or 15 years later, this would have been next would have been Stripes too, right? Like
Oh God.
they would have turned it into a sequel for one of the other
Would you believe
franchises.
Stripes turned into like a police academy
Oh
like
God.
franchise?
Oh, yes. I'm not sure that they make the drugs yet for a police academy marathon. Okay.
I don't
Um,
know if they deleted it, but some fan put together like a Ghostbusters 3 fan trailer.
okay.
Badass. It's from like well over a decade ago, and it uses clips from End of Days.
Okay.
So it suggests that what's his name shows up as the new villain versus the Ghostbusters.
Okay.
What's that guy's name?
Gabriel
Uh,
Byrne.
Gabriel Byrne. There you
Yeah.
go. It's really badass.
Does did you ever play didn't they get all their voices for the game
Yeah, that was the last time all of them were
together?
together. Yeah,
Okay. I was always
which
curious
is,
about that.
and that's basically what a lot of people consider Ghostbusters 3. And the creep factor doesn't stop there because the pinch hitting for Sigourney Weaver is Alyssa Milano, who's still not age appropriate enough to be a viable love interest to Bill Murray,
Right.
but they even designed the character in the game to look like her, so it's like, what the fuck, dude?
What?
Yeah,
Why wouldn't you just have her voicing Dana
well, because the
Van?
character is somebody different.
Oh, okay.
It's some relation to Evo Shandor or something. I can't remember.
Okay.
It's not a bad game, but it's just that was probably the only awkward thing about it. So you have the clips of a video game Bill Murray hitting on her.
Let's
Oh,
see. Closest thing to Die Hard or Ghostbusters 3. All right.
well, look
Oh,
for Wayne Smale. I mean, the trailers are super old. Like even the like they look old. This looks like video director or something. I don't know. It's cut really well, both of them. I think he did two.
all right. Take a
Got the
look for
clips
that.
edited together.
So after Ghostbusters, it would become a blockbuster, huge pop culture phenomenon. And then 5 years later, they would come back with Ghostbusters 2, which was like long rumored. Basically, everybody had to convince Bill Murray to come back. And then they'd
Which
spend years trying to convince him to do a third one.
now he has no choice.
Right. Now Bill Murray will end his career in
After his,
Ghostbusters Afterlife, 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 or something.
but then again, there is a chance that they might appease him in this one. Because for the longest time, his thing was, "I'll come back if you kill Venkman and bring him back as a ghost," which dumb as fuck. But you can't really do that now since Ramus is gone.
Yeah.
That would
It's
just be that would just be repeat business there. And nobody wants Bill Murray to come back as a silent Peter Venkman. Oh, they couldn't do some dialogue with that was the weirdest shit, man. Like you went so far as to have him, make up somebody to look like Ramus, and then you don't give him dialogue or
wait,
anything.
what?
Yeah. In Ghostbusters Afterlife, he reappears at the end of the movie. Only Egon does not talk as a ghost. He does not speak. He's a silent ghost. So they painstakingly, CG'd and uh, put makeup on some actor to look like Harold Ramis, but no final lines or anything. He's just silent, no dialogue whatsoever.
Cool.
With the technology they have now, though, they could have, spliced together some
Well, you have the
something.
entire game, right? Like,
Right.
yeah. Cool. Yeah, Ghostbusters. Hope they never make another one. We'll be back next week with Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah,
uh,
we're not done yet, but we'll
we're
be
not
back.
done yet, but we will be back with 2. And then that ends this rotation of Ghostbusters. We have to wait until there's another duology in the sequel. Or I guess this Afterlife is only a sequel to the first movie.
Right. That's what. Well, yeah. This is why we have to clarify before people are like, well, no, there's 3 Ghostbusters movies. Well, we're doing this duology as Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2 because it's been that way for a very long time. And then they blocked the continuity with the reboot, which got, which flopped. And then they went back to the well with another reboot. So people
So
consider Afterlife Part 3, but it's not. It's a reboot.
so there's no continuity with the first, like Ghostbusters 2016,
Mm-hmm.
Ghostbusters 84 didn't happen. Like it's
Yeah, that's the problem with the 2016 movie. They they fuck it up by having in the first trailer they talk about how four guys defeated a demon
mm,
and drove. But the thing is, it's not in the same continuity. So
oh,
I don't know if that was an earlier thing that they were doing, and that the original actors came back and played just different characters, or was it supposed to intentionally be a continuation, but it got switched somewhere along the way, so that 2016 is
it's
not the same universe,
okay.
and they confirm it in the comic.
Well,
So
that's silly. So, because I mean, obvious, whatever. But yeah,
now the comic
so
explains it pretty well, which is
okay,
cool.
but it's also silly for trying to relaunch a franchise because you would have at least had built in something.
Right? They could have
Um,
just gone on top of that instead of
I mean, Paul
nope.
Feig is kind
Yeah.
of bad. So yeah, this is let's see. Ivan Reitman would be the one who sort of did the most because he tried to go legit really quick with Legal Eagles. He would find a career in the 90s. He would embrace being a comedy, like a
Yeah.
A-list comedy director, but he tried being Ron Howard before Ron Howard tried being Ron Howard, basically after this. And based on this, you'd think he could do it. I mean,
Yeah.
Ghostbusters is a gorgeous production, so you would think he could do it. Um, and then what's it called? Harold Ramis would sort of disappear.
It would
Um,
be more of a director
yeah,
for a while.
and then Dan Aykroyd would be the most visible, which also translated to the most desperate. Just
Yeah, and
because
unfortunately, yeah, it didn't turn out so well for Aykroyd too much.
no,
Like
he did.
he became a beloved guest star after a while,
Yeah,
by evolution.
saturating the market was not maybe the best approach.
Mhm.
But then and then Murray would continue his quest for um, legitimacy from the eyes of the Academy. And Sigourney Weaver would do Aliens. So
Yeah,
there you go.
she would just go back to the well one too many times.
And yeah, and Rick Moranis would sort of actually soon have Rick Moranis has pretty solid career. Tragically cut short, but also very solid. So
Yeah,
don't mug him if you see him on the streets of New York, everyone.
right.
The internet will come for you. So
Shake Rick Moranis' hand and say, "Good job."
yes.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters.
Really good.
All right, folks. Stay tuned next week. It's slime time. Ghostbusters Deuce.